A lot of people have a hard time understanding how I could be out of work for 7 years. And what they do not understand is that the job market in America has changed dramatically. And the way people used to get jobs, even back in the 1990s or even the early 2000s, is not how they get jobs today. And back in the 1990s, you could walk into a store or someplace and you could fill out an application, and if the manager liked you, they would, give you an interview, and then eventually you would get hired. And even before that, you could walk into a place, ask about a job, and the same day you would be working. But after 9/11, the economy changed, and a lot of people just don't understand that thanks to those towers collapsing, many businesses were forced to start using email because they could not get messengers and secretaries and people around. And then because they couldn't do that, they were forced to use email, and that forced people to use their computer systems to get business done. So a lot of positions that I used to apply for, they got eliminated. And these days, those were entry level jobs that you use to work yourself up, like your clericals or your administrative assistant or your office assistant. Those jobs, they were eliminated because people were using their computers to get work done. And then after the 2008 economic collapse, people started relying on their computers even more. And now, with the evolution of the iPad and the tablet, again, people are now using more computers to do jobs that people used to do. And even though I have gotten other skills, like I have an A+ certification, scored like 845 on the 22601 and the 602, it's still hard to find work because in today's job market, everything is people get jobs two ways. They get them either one by applying online or two by contacts. And applying online is like 2% of how things are done, and the other 98 is done through contacts. That's how job market pretty much runs right now. People, friends hire friends, and the reason why they hire friends is because a lot of people's trust has been shattered due to events like your 9/11s and all of these mass shootings out here. So a lot of people do not really trust outsiders. They really do not trust strangers. And they go out here and they hire their friends because they want to feel safe and secure. A lot of people in America really aren't that confident about hiring outsiders. So that makes it even harder to find work especially when you're a guy who struggles with things like social anxiety disorder and shyness, and it's like hard to connect with people because a lot of people, they have a lot of fear inside of them, and they're really really afraid of taking a risk on an outsider. They more would rather trust someone that they know than trust someone they don't know. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't understand is that you can supervise an outsider better than a friend or some guy that you kind of know. You can't really manage their work objectively and see, what type of mistakes they're making from a professional perspective if this guy is too close to you. If a guy is outside, you can, assess his work on an objective level and focus on the aspects of the business. Now, a lot of people don't understand this, but I'm just trying to explain it so people can understand it. When it comes down to, job market, a lot of people, again, they don't understand how you can be out of work, and they don't understand that, some of us, especially those who struggle with anxiety and shyness, we have a hard time, connecting with people and making friends with people, and that really can hinder us from getting into the job market. That's what I have a hard time with because I do not, socialize with people, and plus where I live, you really cannot, socialize with people because these people will get you messed up. I mean, when you live in an area like the South Bronx, you cannot get too close to people because a lot of these guys, some of them are in gangs, some of them have criminal backgrounds, and if you get involved with these people, they can mess your life up. So you have to do what I did back when I was in high school. You have to cut people off and stay to yourself if you hope to survive out here. And a lot of people, they just can't get that. They don't understand that, where I live, you cannot get involved with just any old person because some of these guys, again, they're involved with gangs. Some of them are involved with criminal activity, and some of them are just mentally ill. So you cannot interact with people like that. And people think that, oh, that you're lazy or you're not trying hard. Well, as a guy who's been out of work for 7 years, this is what these are all the books, almost all of them. These are many of the books that I have published over the last 7 years, and many more are in the back here. And if you go to Amazon.com by clicking the link on the description box, you'll see the entire catalog of books that I had to work on while I was out here looking for work. And a lot of people, they don't understand that's what I've been doing in the time while I was out here. I was building up this SJS Direct Publishing imprint, and I was trying to get that to go while I was looking for work. And I really was tenacious about looking for work. I remember I went out here and I took a civil service test for the third time, and I passed it the first time, not the first, the second time, and I got a position, but then I got fired from that position based on the false accusations of a professor who was jealous of me and his black female coworker, because they just didn't want me in the position. I mean, I remember going to performance appraisal, the guy's talking about how he wants someone with a sales and customer service background because he was upset that I was a writer in my hobby, and he just got upset. He wanted somebody. He's talking about he wanted somebody with a sales and customer service background. Not understanding that writers, what we do is sales and customer service. In order for us to go to editors and literary agents, we have to make our proposals with our words in a one-page query letter, and that's basically about 3 or 4 paragraphs, and we have to sell in that 3 or 4 paragraphs. And this guy just did not understand, that. Instead, he let his insecurities get the better of him, and I couldn't work with him. I mean, I remember being there when he tried to accuse me of that sleeping on the job, and the guy was just too emotional to deal with, and he was sitting there lying, and I could not deal with him. I said, I can't deal with this guy. And after that, I just said I had to keep going, and I had to keep, because that's what God wanted me to do, and I kept persevering with my publishing, and that's what I've been doing. And a lot of people think, oh, you're not trying hard enough, you're not pushing hard enough, but when it comes down to today's people, this is another thing that people don't understand. In today's job market, it's not like it was 20 years ago where you could, play the old butter up game or be somebody's friend. Again, a lot of people, their nerves are on edge due to these incidents out here with these mass shootings. So you really cannot play with people's egos, because you can't really play that type of game. That'll get you, jacked up out here. I mean, you can't really push people or press people because a lot of people are on edge, and the least little thing can set them off. This is something that a lot of people, they don't understand about today's job market. Today's job market is nothing like the job market of the 90s or the early 2000s, and everything is really, really very impersonal. And I know this for a fact because if you go into a place like a Target or any of these stores and you ask, how can I apply for a job? Guess where they're going to direct you? They're going to direct you to a computer kiosk, and they're going to tell you to apply online. And that's just basically all you can do to these days is apply online. And then after you fill out the application with the personal information, they're going to give you a personality test, and that's how it's done these days. And the personality test is going to ask the same questions, over and over again. And if you get a luck of the draw, you may get an interview. And getting into the interview again is the toughest part these days when it comes down to American jobs. It's like either if you don't know somebody, you won't get in, because if you try to go through the traditional route with applications or resumes, people are being deluged with so much information they just don't have the time to read it all. So a lot of people don't understand that that's how a guy can be out of work for a long time. And a lot of people, they don't want to take a risk these days. A lot of people are very, very fearful due to all these mass shooting incidents, incidents like 9/11. People are antsy about hiring someone that they don't know. They don't trust you, so they fear they do their hiring based on emotion rather than logic, and that's just how it is these days. And a lot of people don't understand this, and they think that you're being lazy when you're not being lazy at all. Again, if a man was lazy, why would he spend all his time writing all of these books? And if I were lazy, how could I have books like these two ready for up and ready for sale in advance? I mean, this is part of my. These three were part of my SJS Direct 2016 catalog, and I published this one this month. This one's coming out next month, and this one's coming out in June. So that shows that I have, professionalism, drive, and I'm a hard worker. I mean, I've been working on these projects, since last year, and I've been editing them for the last 6-7 months, and I managed to still get them out in spite of having a Kickstarter that would have paid for the covers fail. So I'm showing that I have, a strong work ethic. I'm really committed to what I want to do, and that I have strong leadership skills, strong time management skills, strong organizational skills, because again, here we have 3 books coming out in 3 months in a row and during the peak reading season, and that really should show people, how serious I am about getting work done. But in today's job market, none of this stuff has any value, because a lot of people, they look at things like being out of work at a company, because this is something I ran into at one civil service, one interviewer. They just got real nasty. Oh, when I mentioned my AmeriCorps experience, was that a paying job? Just being nasty. And when I mentioned my volunteer work, saying, was that a paying job? You run into all sorts of nasty people in today's job market, even if you get to the interview stage. And a lot of them do not value, talented people. They would rather be told what they want to hear rather than listen to someone who's trying to present them with something that they have to offer them. And I have a lot to offer employers, but if the employers, are sitting there and they don't want what I have to offer them, then I can't give it to them. I mean, you can't get a job with an employer who does not want to hire you. And I ran into that when I even went to a supermarket job about a couple months ago. I mean, they had a help wanted sign. I walk in, and these Arabs sit there and they say they don't want me. What can I do? I mean, they want what they want. And this is what I run into, quite a bit in this American job market. Black males, a lot of companies just don't want to hire them. They would rather hire, the black woman, because that allows them to get 2 affirmative action quotas with one person. They get a female and they get a black person, or they can hire a Hispanic or an Arab female and get the exact same thing and meet their affirmative action quota, but they don't want to hire black men for some reason. I ran into that civil service, for where I tried to do things after I got fired. I went in there and I tried to get another civil service job, and for 3 years I ran into these females, who just avoided trying to hire me and would hire every female instead of me. I mean, and I ran into so much hostility from these females in HR, it was a nightmare. And eventually I just got so tired of it that I just walked away from it. And I just said, I'm tired of spending money, going to these interviews, because I wasn't going to get anything, because females in HR controlled HR, and they pretty much were going to hire other females for the job. And this is something that, a lot of people have a hard time understanding. And even though I've explained it in numerous videos about the changing job market and, all the efforts I have made, people have a hard time getting it. And unless you have support systems, it becomes very difficult, to find that next job. And if you don't know people, people aren't going to be willing to hire you or take a shot on you these days. They're afraid. Everybody is afraid of risk. Everybody is afraid of failing. Everybody's afraid of, taking an opportunity to help someone out who could probably help their business. I mean, based on the work that I've produced, I believe I've shown that I have a lot to offer employers. Unfortunately, they want someone who fits into a box. They want someone who they can be so-called comfortable with, and that sadly, that I believe that's preventing me from finding, full-time work these days. I'm still out here trying to persevere with the SJS Direct Publishing imprint, and I'm still trying to look for work. And it's a tough challenge, and a lot of people, I just want them to understand that I'm ready to go back to work, but if you don't have anything to offer me, I can't work for you. And if I try to offer you something and you don't want it, then I can't give it to you. And this is just the big problem I have run into over the last 7 years, is that I want to work, but people just don't want me to work for them.